Hey, all you laser entrepreneurs out there. Today, we're going to work on a very easy beginner project. I'm going to show you how to make one of these from start to finish. So let's get started. I'm going to start the process of designing the door hanger using Affinity Designer primitives. Primitives are basic shapes. Here, I'm drawing a rectangle with rounded corners. I'm going to make it approximately 4¼ inches wide by 11 inches long, which is the standard size of a door hanger. Next, I'm going to use another primitive shape, the circle. I'm going to draw out the circle and I'm going to change the color of it so that I can see it over the rectangle that I drew. I measured my doorknob, and 3 inches by 3 inches is an easy clearance. Now I'm going to select the circle and I'm going to select the rectangle, and I'm going to use Affinity Designer's feature to center the circle. Once the circle is centered, I'm going to subtract it from the door hanger. And now I have an area where the doorknob will fit through and an area to engrave on. Next, I'm going to bring in the controller, which is simply a vector art that I got from a free vector art website, Vecteezy. If you haven't used it before, it's great. I'm going to bring the controller down and place it over here. I'm going to use the same centering features to make sure it's in the center of the door hanger. And now I have my controller in place. I'm going to duplicate that controller as well. And that way I'm going to be able to mark where it needs to go, as well as have a cutout to add some dimension. I find that adding at least one layer to every piece that I design makes it look much more rich. Here I'm now going to add the text. So I'm just going to use a basic font in Windows that I like, that I know engraves well. I'm going to say do not disturb gaming. So here I'm going to shrink that down a little bit, uh, also bring it to where I want it to be on the rectangle, and I'll add the second line of text below that. Affinity Designer is really great if you haven't used it before. It's very reasonably priced. There's nothing wrong with Lightburn, and I will do future videos using Lightburn, but there's so many great design features in Affinity Designer, and it's under $60, one-time purchase. So now I've got all the text aligned, centered along with the door hanger, and this is what the final design is going to look like. Now all I need to do is export that as an SVG so that I can import it into Lightburn and then change the settings to make sure I know what's going to be engraving, what's going to be cutting, what the sequence is of those events as well. And inside Lightburn, I'll do any additional tweaking that I need to do to get the design ready to cut on my Mira 7 60-watt laser. Here we are inside of Lightburn, where I'm going to go ahead and import the door hanger SVG that I created and exported with Affinity Designer. And here I'm going to make a copy of that controller. Remember I said that I want to mark where it is, but I also want to cut that piece out, and I'm going to paint that and glue that on top, which will give it a little bit of extra depth. So here I'm changing the settings for speed and power to tell my Mira how I want it to mark that controller piece. And I'm going to make a copy of it so that I can cut it out. I'll make that red along with the cut line of the door hanger and the doorknob hole that will also be cut out. So here I'll make that copy. I'm going to nest that in so that when I put my piece of wood in, I can cut all this in one shot. So here it's now going to be the same power settings and speed settings as everything else. And I've got this file ready to go. I've got my engraving, my marking, my filling, and I'm going to save this as a door hanger file and send it to the laser. All right, we're all done. Let's take a look. It's looking good. Now on to finishing. Now I'm going to do a little light sanding. I'm not doing this to try and get the char off. I'm preparing it for paint by getting a little bit of the rough pieces off and rounding out some of the edges. Next, I'm going to do something unconventional. I'm going to wash it in the sink. Here I just use a scrubby brush and I get off as much of the char as I can. I dry it off with a paper towel and it comes out just great and ready for paint. Outside, I'm going to spray paint with white flat paint the controller piece. After I'm complete with the controller piece, I'm going to move to staining. I'm going to stain the main door hanger. I use early American stain. It stains up very nicely, gets in all the grooves, nooks and crannies, and the final outcome looks really incredible, especially when you put the white three-dimensional piece of the controller on the outside. The final step is gluing. Here, I use as little glue as possible, position the piece, and I'm ready to go. And that is how you make one of these. I'll put this file in my group in the file section. You're welcome to download it for free at no cost. And don't forget to pew the subscribe button here at the bottom and look out for future videos. And since this was my first instructional video, I'd appreciate any comments that you can. I'd like to know if I did a great job. It'll give me a lot of energy to do some additional videos.